Evening, Shadi, you there? Hello? Hello? Anybody there? Hello?
I
Shadi?
think
Shadi?
seems she's switching to her phone.
Okay, who's speaking?
It's Vivian speaking.
Ah, Vivian.
She just typed a message to say she's switching to her phone.
I can't, okay. Okay, there, I got it now. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Certification journey?
Yeah, that one?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Hi, Paul. Paul?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, sorry, for some reason my PC sound is not working.
Okay. Can you see my screen there?
I can.
Okay. Is it on the home screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we're just waiting for Lucy, and then we can start.
Okay. Hi to everyone else.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi there.
Okay, guys, we'll start in a moment. I'm just sorting out something here quickly. Okay. So, Shadi, you can see the presentation screen.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay, so I think we can start. Lucy's busy logging in. Welcome everyone to, I think it's going to be our second last certification session for the year. So welcome this evening. We're going to be talking about the CBAP, and Shadi tonight, she's going to be taking us through her journey. So let's just go through the agenda quickly. So we'll just go through some webinar etiquette just to make sure that everyone has a pleasant journey tonight. We'll have a look at the IIBA, just give you a quick overview what the IIBA is about. Then we will have a look at the certification overview. And then we will look at certification journey with Shadi. She'll take us through her journey. We'll go into a question answer time, and I'm going to just share after Shadi just my experience with my journey that has just started for my CBAP. I've just got audited, so I'll take you guys through what that means, and then we'll close off the evening. All right.
Sounds good.
Cool. Okay, so guys, so if I can ask you, just keep your cameras off because they pop up on my screen and get distracting. Keep your mics off so when the dog's barking in the background, it doesn't irritate everyone. You're welcome to type questions during the evening on the chat line, and let's give the presenter all our attention. As I said, at the end, there'll be time for question and answer time. So just quickly, our sponsor is Get Smarter for this series for this year. And at the end of the year, we will be awarding a Get Smarter voucher to the value of 14,900 Rand. I think we'll probably be making that draw next month. Everyone that's attended a webinar this year for certification will be in the draw for that. So this course by Get Smarter is endorsed by the International Institute of Business Analysis, which means that you can claim your PD points for your certification. For those who don't know who Get Smarter is an online education company based in Cape Town. In fact, just been sold, I think, earlier this year to an American company. And they provide various courses from some of the top universities around the world, including MIT. So what is the International Institute of Business Analysis? Well, the South African board is made up of Ryan Falster, our president, Giovanni is our treasurer, Lucy Davies, who's joined us tonight and helping in the background, is our secretary, Shadi, who's our guest speaker tonight, is head of operations, and Francois Kombic on professional development. The IIBA is an independent organization. We're a non-profit organization. Our role is to elevate the role of business analysts, to be a global thought leader for the profession of business analysis, and we support the profession through things like certification, through things like PDD days, and through our recent BA summit. It's a global network of chapters and consists of about 300 corporate members and 120 chapters, and at the last count about 29,000 members. So what does the IIBA offer you? So as you can see coming up, these are all the value offerings that come up for the IIBA. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to mention one or two of them. So certification, obviously, that's what we're talking about tonight, and we'll go into a bit more detail about that just now. That's to bring your attention to things like the competency model, the new one that's been launched. If you're a member of the IIBA, you have access to that, which helps you to increase your level of business analysis proficiency. If you're trying to plot out your career, the business analysis career roadmap has some useful tips there. And then there's two other things I want to point out there is the online library, which has ebooks, really valuable resource. I use that quite often, and you have free access to that as an IIBA member. Your webinars, I think virtually every week there's a webinar loaded there. As a member, you have access to them on various topics regarding business analysis. And I think for what you're getting, for the price you're paying as a member, it's well worth the value. So what is the BA BOK, which is going to be your textbook for your certification? It consists of our business core concept model, which consists of, let's see if I can remember, I need change, need, solution, stakeholder, value, and context, and how those interrelate to each other and how those impact each other. It's also broken into 6 knowledge areas with about 30 respective tasks in each, 50 techniques over all of those knowledge areas, and 29 underlying competencies in various categories. And then the final one is the 5 perspectives and glossary. So the majority of your CBAP is going to be on those first 4. Perspectives aren't tested, but it is a lens through which you view the other topics. So it's very important to understand and read through that as well. So why do certification? Obviously, we all want recognition in our industry. Increased income. I read a report, I think it was 2 days ago, that on average, certified BAs get up to 11% more pay than a normal BA. Obviously, professional development, to develop yourself. It's a good resume value add, and I'm particularly seeing more and more job specs coming through where they're asking for some sort of certification. And of course, we expect the business analyst profession to grow by 14% by 2024. So what is the level? So on the screen now, you will see the 4 levels that the IIBA brought out. Tonight, we're concentrating on the middle 2, so I'm just going to briefly go through those 2. ECBA, obviously no experience, and it's just a live online web exam that you'll attend, and you need about 21 hours of business analysis. The CCBA, minimum of 3,750 hours, and then you need, within those 3,750 hours, at least 900 hours in 2 of those 6 knowledge areas, or 500 hours in 4 of those 6. And then you also write a 3-hour exam of about 130 multiple choice questions. The CBAP is 7,500 hours in the last 10 years. And then within that, it's at least 900 hours in 4 of the 6 knowledge areas. On top of that, you need to do 35 hours of PDU training. So if you, like me, who had done his FTI course 10 years ago, I had to go and redo a course this year in order to generate PDUs. They do look at non-IIBA certified courses. It will go through a vetting process to see if it does align. My suggestion is do something if you need to, rather do something that has already been endorsed by IIBA. It will just make the whole process and your application a lot easier. Then you need 2 references that can vouch for you being a BA. And then you write a 3.5-hour exam of 120 multiple choice questions. And these are case-based questions. So you're going to get case studies and be asked questions on those cases. I'm not going to go through much through the CBAP, which is the last one. We're still waiting for what the criteria will be for that, but those are going to be kind of your Gandalfs of the industry, if I can put it that way. So I'm going to hand over to Shadi and let her talk you through her journey. Shadi, over to you.
Thanks, Paul. I hope everyone can hear me. So I'm going to have to ask Paul to switch the slides for me, seeing as that my PC started working and I'm on my phone at the moment. So Paul, if you'd mind going on to the next slide, please. Okay. So my journey first started in 2011. I first applied and I got approved to sit for my CBAP exam. And I was very excited. Richard Lawson from the Watermark company came out to South Africa for the first time. And I went and I did the course at FTI. However, very soon after doing the course and getting my application approved, I realized due to work and life commitments, I did not have any time to study. Now, for those of you who have already gone through this process and who have got your application approved, you've got a year afterwards in which you can write your exam. I kept on putting it off and kept on thinking, I'm going to have time, don't worry, I'll have time to study next month, I'll have time to study next month. Until I got to the end of my year very quickly and realized I'm not going to be able to write. I then kind of put it on the back burner, and eventually in 2015, I had a month break between products and projects because I was going to a new client where I didn't pick up any new work. And I thought, this is my chance. And I battled down, I studied, I reapplied, and I went and I wrote my CBAP. So that's how I started out. So I'm going to take you guys through the process based on a couple of guidance. And the first one is application process. Just to check, still, can everyone hear me?
Yep, can hear you.
Someone? Okay, cool. Okay. So from the application process, like Paul mentioned earlier, you are going to have all that prerequisites. Your application process, you fill in an online application form. It's on the actual IIBA's website, and you fill in that form there. So once you register on the actual website, you can fill in the form. Something I've got to make very clear here up front is you do not have to be a registered IIBA member to do your certification or to actually start your application process. So the first thing I went and looked at what it costs to write the exams and what membership costs. So just to give you guys an idea, and again, I'm going to stress here, at no point in time are we saying you have to be a member to write this exam or to get your certification. So if you look at certification from South Africans' point of view, we pay $85 per year for certification. And why I would strongly advise it, especially in the year that you are doing your certification, is exam fee for non-members is $450. However, if you are an IIBA member, they discount your exam fee by $125. You only pay $325. So that covers your whole membership fee already. You get a free copy of your IIBA. You get access to the library, all those things mentioned previously. So that's something to consider, but it's up to everyone else. It's not mandatory. Please remember that. So when you fill in your online form, it is going to ask you regarding your education. You're going to have to list that. You're going to have to list your PDUs. Like you were saying earlier, your professional development units. And you will then have to give 2 references. These guys are either going to be a client. It has to be someone that's in or a manager, or it can be another CBAP recipient that you can ask to please act as this. When you do this, be careful. What happened to me is I notify you and say, listen, this person's email's blocked. No one notifies you. So that's very important. What you need to do is, if you are going to nominate someone and you're worried that their work email address might get blocked, rather ask them for a personal email address, a Google, a Gmail, anything like that. Rather use that. Also, explain to them exactly what they're going to get. The email they get, they're going to have to fill in a form. They're going to have to rate you on the knowledge areas. They're also going to have to provide some feedback based on your conduct, your ethics and stuff like that. So please prepare people up front so they're not surprised when they get this email and what it's about. Also, stress to them how important this is, because this will hold up your application process. They will not process your application until they've got those 2 references in. Okay. Then the most important part, and probably I think for a lot of people a very difficult part, is you have to complete your workbook. It's like a portfolio of evidence. And this is, like you were saying, depending on which one you're writing, CBAP or CCBA, you can go back either 10 or 7 years of history and fill in that information. For me personally, it was quite easy. I came from a consulting background. So I had my timesheets and I had my logs of my clients. So it was very easy to go back to them. If you are at a company where you've been in forever, it is more difficult, especially if you go back to older projects. If you work on a lot of small projects, guys, because sometimes you pick up small projects here and there, what I would say is roll those up into a big project. I did that on some of my stuff where I just set various projects, the time frame, and I put details in there. So if you've got 200 small projects, don't go list every single one. It's going to take you a year to complete your application. Another tip I can give is don't complete it directly on the website. Get a spreadsheet. Work on a spreadsheet and get your hours on there, because you've got to ensure it's spread correctly out over the knowledge areas. Look at your criteria, look in your handbook, and make sure you adhere to that. Please, I think these days you don't need to worry about capturing non-knowledge area events anymore, but it used to be like that in the beginning. Go look at your hours, guys. Do a sanity check on it. I often have people submit their applications to me first, their spreadsheets and that, and get advice on there. Really do a check. I see someone, they mentioned the watermark has a free template. They do. It's great. Guys, if you can go download it, that template really does help. That's a very good tip. I also use the watermark one, by the way, and it helps to really lay that out. Another thing you've got to be aware of, you have to provide contact details for each of those projects. So again, make sure if you're going to put up someone's details that you haven't worked with in 4 or 5 years, please notify them. Like Paul said now, they might actually audit you. He'll tell you more about the process at the end. And part of that process is they might need to get hold of these people. So don't give them contact details that are out of date where they can't reach people. Very important. Otherwise, you're going to hold up your own process. If you look in chat, someone just asked, what about the watermark? If you just search for watermark, I think you'll see up front there it says watermark. You will find on their website, they've got the information there on the template on how to capture this. Okay. So guys, important, like I said, make sure you complete it first on the spreadsheet. Look at your hours, see if it's looking good. Then make sure you speak to the people you are actually going to nominate to go through this process, be your references. Notify them what's happening. Same thing for people you add to your workbook. Please notify them about the process, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve, and that there might be a possibility that they will be contacted. Okay. Is there any questions at this point in time on the application process? I'm taking that as a, let me just see. How long does the process take? Of course, depending on the accuracy of your information. So I've heard people who say it's taken them like a month or 2 months, but they weren't working on it full time and they were trying to gather information and get hold of people and stuff like that. For me, when I sat down and I actually went through it, as I said, I was very lucky because I had all my time sheets and all my sign-off invoices from previous projects because I was consulting. It probably took me about 2 weeks to get everything together, to put it out properly, to look at it, contact people and that. So for me, it took 2 weeks. It is going to vary depending on your projects, depending on how long ago you're going into your projects, and who you need to get hold of. So it is varying. Is there anyone on the chat? Paul, you've done it quite recently. How long did it take you
Yes.
to complete your application process?
Okay, I'm probably the wrong person to ask because I'm very detail orientated. But mine, I spent mine over about 4 months, and I just decided because it's quite a lot to get done, and you've got to really think about what you're doing. So I did it over 4 months, doing about half an hour to 45 minutes a day.
At there, when I talk about my time frame when I was writing my exam, like the 2 weeks and that, remember at this point I was on sabbatical, so I wasn't working. So when I say 2 weeks, I meant I was spending my full attention to it. So it probably equates to the same as Paul having spent 4 months, but just on smaller batch. So guys, give yourself enough time for this. You need a substantial amount of time. Don't think you're going to do it quickly in one evening and submit it the next morning, okay? Then once you've submitted it, so it all happens online. Once you've submitted this, it's going to go through an approval process. So give or take the American times and stuff like that. This can vary, guys. I've heard people who've waited 10 days to get feedback. I've heard people who've waited 5 days to get feedback. Personally, I think the first time I applied, I got feedback in about a week. The second time I applied in 2015, I got my feedback within 2 days. I got my approval feedback. So I don't know if it had anything to do with the fact that it was approved previously, but it was very quick for me. So it was very quick for me this time. It varies. I just think it depends on how busy they are. So I would say normally, guys, if you haven't received any information in about 2 weeks' time, you can mail them and ask. I see someone here said mine was quick, a day after I uploaded everything. Yeah, I think it depends on the time. Like I said, this time run for you was like 2 or 3 days. Can't remember exactly. So it's pretty quick that you know if you've got your approval or not. Again, Paul will chat to you guys about the audit process after we're finished. Okay, guys, if you don't mind, I'm going to move on to the next step now. And this is actually, if you want to go to the next slide, the studying thing. So the important thing here, I think, is, oops, one back.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I think the important thing here to realize is you've got to really go look at, identify what kind of student are you. What that I mean is some people learn very well on their own, give them a book on their own, they sit on their own and they make notes and they make their stickies and underline things, and that's how they work. Other people need to be in a group where they can interact, ask the questions, have the discussions. Other people need to watch videos or hear something repeated to them or work with flashcards. So the first thing I would say is really identify who you are. When I went on the course in 2011, I really enjoyed it. But I realized there that I'm not a group studying person at all. I get distracted by other things. I don't focus if I'm in a group studying. So for me, the best way to study when I studied this time as well was sitting on my own and just buttoning down and studying like that. Go identify it. If you work best in a group, guys, we do offer the facility that we can advertise for you guys, that you can have a group. So if you want to start a group and you want us to put it out there to say, guys, Joburg, Pretoria, Durban, whoever, guys are starting a study group, whoever wants to contact the person. We won't be facilitating it from the IIBA side, but we're happy to advertise it and make it known so that people can contact you and join a group. So I know a lot of people work very well with that. When people were writing last year, there were quite a few groups going and they really support each other very well. Oh, I like that. Thanks, Ellen. Ellen has posted in the comments. I don't know if you guys can see that. She says FARK, am I pronouncing that correctly? FARK has a quick quiz that can help you identify your learning type. Guys, that's probably one of your biggest tips I can give you. It's really important to understand naturally how you connect text material. Then what you do is, I started by just reading the book. I just read through it once completely, and I'm going to warn you guys, this is not an exciting read. If you're expecting it to be like riveting stuff and it's like your favorite book, it's not going to be that. It's a body of knowledge. It's got a rich depth of knowledge, but it's not a riveting read. I battled reading through it the first time, and I think why I battled with it so much as well back in 2011 is I was fighting the content. And this is a tip I want to give you guys tonight is don't fight the content. So when I was reading through the BA book and I was looking at some of the questions about it in 2011, I kept on going in my head and kept on saying, but it's not like that in my organization. That's not true. We don't do that. Or we do have to test, or we do that. So the whole time I was confusing, exactly, I see someone else is confused by that as well. I was fighting the information. So I was making it much more difficult for myself to study. I then had the opportunity, much later on, 5 years later, I was working on projects overseas in America, and I got to experience how they work and how BAs work in their environment. And suddenly the BA book made a lot more sense. And but you've got to understand, there's a lot of people that contributed are from America, and they contributed from their reality point of view. And again, I see someone talking there about the layout. Yes, that layout very much, like I said, I was fighting all of that content, and it makes you make it struggle. Yeah, it does make it easy, not that easy to focus on it and follow the way of doing it. Had I not had that exposure, I don't know if I still would be fighting the content when I studied in 2015.
Good evening. Sorry, can you hear us? We just want to confirm that you can hear us.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, lovely, fantastic. Thanks a lot.
Okay. So to continue, what I want to say to you guys is when you study material, guys, think of it almost like you're going for your driver's exam. When you do your K53 exam and you're sitting there and it tells you to stop at every stop street and pull up your handbrake and like observe in this mirror and that mirror and that mirror, and you do like 5 minutes of that and like 10 taxis would have driven over you in real life, okay? That's how you've got to treat the content from the BA book. That's the best advice I can give you guys, to say is treat it like that. It's there, it's got a lot of knowledge, it's got amazing stuff in it, but study it like that. Your exam, your test is not going to be on what's happening in your company on your project right now. It's happening on what is appropriate according to the BA book for that technique and that situation. And the minute you make that switch in your head to approach it like that, it actually makes the content easier for you. It really, really helps. The minute I kept on trying to tie everything back to what was happening in my company, I was really struggling with it. What I found worked best was to take whatever the BA book had for that situation and go look at my environment and say, oh, okay. So currently, we are doing it like this. However, according to the BA book, that would have been the one. And that's how I started tying it back. If you just try and just apply it immediately to what's happening in your company, in your world, guys, you will struggle. Okay. So think of it like that. Then there's a lot of material out there at the moment. Besides the BA book, there is other textbooks. There are other study material out there that you can download or buy. There is, what I would suggest is what I did was, after I've gone through the BA book and I felt comfortable with it. So I read through it once cover to cover, and then I started going through it in areas that I felt I needed attention. I started spending more attention to that, drilling down into that. Then, very important, go look at your glossary at the end. When you look at your glossary and look at all the synonyms, all the things and how they describe the things, that's very, very important. Martin, you're asking about the study guide I would recommend. So guys, I'm going to be biased. I use Watermark. I know there are other companies out there that are equally well, so please go Google for them. I'm just speaking from my personal experience. I used Watermark's CBAP study guide. I like their way because it worked well with my way of studying, because I study on my own and I study very well, like with written material and stuff like that. They've got mnemonics and they've got shortcuts in there that work really, really well. Are you challenging getting that one? I don't know. Is there anyone else online that can recommend any of the others? They're asking if there's any of the other materials. I don't know any of the others, so I can't.
Okay, so let me answer that. I mean, I did quite a bit of research on all of them, and I felt it, and I've used the Watermark one, and I felt it a lot more friendlier and easier to understand. I looked at some of the others. And the problem I found is a lot of them come from India, and so there's a very intellectual style, and I found it sometimes quite hard to understand.
Yeah. Also, what I would suggest is, guys, be careful when you buy some of these, because a lot of them are just money-making schemes. They're not actually really good quality ones. I think there was one from Bridging the Gap that people were saying was quite good as well. I remember when I was studying, people were commenting and saying they were using that. You'll see there's actually some questions on the actual IIBA website. If you go into their certification link, you'll see there's some practice questions on there as well to give you an idea. There is also a reference there to other materials. When you guys are saying you're battling with some watermark material, are you battling to get it in the country, or are you battling to get it online? In the country. Oh, okay. It might be worth actually, because yeah.
Sorry, let me answer. I mean, I bought mine this year. It took probably about 2 weeks to arrive. So I'm not sure why. There might be just be an issue at the moment with the postage or something. Yeah, I bought mine from Amazon, Martin. It took about 2 weeks to arrive, and I bought their flashcards as well.
Yeah, I must say the flashcards work greatly for me. Maybe what we should do is we should think of asking the guys who finished writing these CBAPs if anyone has got any of this material and people want to resell secondhand. That might be something worth putting out to our base and asking any of the guys who've passed if they want to resell their material.
Cool. Good idea.
Yeah, I see someone else is saying B2T also has prep exams. So that's my next point, guys. After studying and going through all of that and going through the glossary, I looked at the prep exams. That's pretty much what I did. I went through the BA book, I'd say at the most, for me personally, it's my style, probably 2 times in depth. Once I really focused on the glossary, then I moved on to the exams. Again, I used the watermark simulator. Even if you don't use the watermark one, I would suggest looking at one of the simulators, one of the exam things. For me, English is not my first language. So when I first started doing the exams, I really, really battled with the way they phrase questions. Because even if you are if your first language in South Africa is English, the way the American phrasing is very, very different than how we phrase things. And I found that really difficult in the beginning. And that's probably the biggest benefit I got out of the online exams, was getting used to how they phrase things, getting used to the format of the exam and that Bloomsburg taxonomy, where the one is the most correct, one is completely wrong, and the other 2 are also correct, but not the most correct. So you actually learn the technique of how to eliminate. So when you look at a question, when it pops up, you get practice of immediately eliminating the one that's wrong. Immediately you can spot the one that's completely wrong. And then you get used to how you identify which one is the most correct one. And this is where the glossary actually played a big part for me. Because very often what they would use is the synonym of a term or the description that's in the glossary and not in the actual BA book, in the techniques or tools. So that's where it helped me a lot. And I've heard that from a lot of people now, that actually tripped them up a bit in the exam. So they thought they had the right answer, but suddenly the one word they were expecting to find looked a bit different. And because they hadn't paid any attention to the glossary, they didn't know, according to the BA book, that was the synonym for that word. So be very careful of that. So that was on studying, guys. Are you guys happy with that? Again, studying, give yourself enough time. On the online simulators, I like doing the drills. So what I did was, instead of doing full exams, I would take a knowledge area and I would do a drill on that until I had like 99% or 100% on that particular area. Then I'd move on to the next area. When I had about 3 areas done and I felt good with it, I then started doing full exams. I see questions come up. I have a question about asking for references. If my lunch does not have a BA background, can I still ask them? Guys, just so that you know, you can still ask them. But what I would do is I would actually go speak to them. So on the IIBA's website, they actually have a form. They've got an example of what that email will look to them. What I would suggest is go read that. See what they're going to ask them, because they ask them kind of they'll ask them questions about your skills and your level. And if your manager really doesn't have an idea about it, they might not give the right feedback. So I would suggest go sit with them. Again, prep them. Don't let it be a blind email and they suddenly get this and they don't know what to do with it and they answer the wrong thing. So go sit with them and talk through it and explain what it is. If they're not sure what's being asked there, this is also a great opportunity maybe to tell your manager what it is that you do, to share with them. So I would say do it like that. If not, guys, it doesn't just need to be a manager. Again, you can nominate another CBAP to actually reference for you, or it could be one of your clients as well. Okay, so if you think your manager is not going to have the time or don't understand the process, then don't nominate them. Okay, I hope that answered your question. Okay, so the material, like I said, guys, it's dry material. So just don't fight it. Try and work with the material. The online exam, the simulators, different types, again, go Google them, look for them. The ones I would look out for as a high risk, don't get them. Other ones for sites like they call themselves Test King and Certification Kings, or if they guarantee you a pass, I'd be worried about it. There's no guarantee for a pass. So if it's one of those exams that say 100% guarantee for a pass, will give you money back, I'd run away from those exams. Okay, be very careful of those. Okay, like King Insurance or budget insurance. Yeah, you could actually get sites that call themselves test. The idea of that is to practice the way they phrase things and how they ask questions. For instance, it is a multiple choice exam, but not all of them are multiple choice as in choose ABC. Sometimes they're going to say to you, choose all that applies. And when they say that, you don't know if it's 2 correct answers, 3 correct answers, or 4 correct answers. So this is where it helps you as well. It gets you used to the mechanics of taking an online exam, because you're going to be working with stuff like your checkboxes. In some cases, you need to reorder a sequence of something. So they might ask you to drag and drop things on the screen. So this is also where it's valuable. It helps you practice the mechanisms of an online exam. It also helps you to get used to how you mark things for review later and how you go back to questions later as well. Let me just see questions coming up. Yeah. What I will do is I will send any information and links I've got, I'll send to Paul. And if you guys connect with him, Paul will actually, I'll give it to him so you can share that information with you guys as well, if you don't mind, Paul. Okay.
Will do.
Good. So guys, that was me on studying. Again, like I said, I had about a month's time that I could dedicate to studying, and I did it like that. Some days I studied more than other days. I just buckled down. I did not feel comfortable to book my exams, so I'm going to write, until I was getting at least 96% in all the knowledge areas. But that was just me. It's going to depend on you. I would say if you're getting less than 90% in the knowledge areas, I'd rather study more before I book my exam. Okay. Cool. I'm also taking some medical to prep for this. Honestly, guys, I found that was the best way because I could focus on this and I really got so much out of it. Because I had the time to not just cram things into my head and study, I actually took time to really look at it and see what is really good techniques that I've been missing out on. So I did research on a lot of things. So some of the things they were mentioning in the tools and techniques are stuff that I know of, but I've never really used it in my area. So I actually looked it up and I went and watched videos on it and stuff like that. So for me, it wasn't just for the exam. It was actually, I built a lot of skills through this. So there's a question that came up, guys, and they said, what is the pass mark for the test? So it's interesting. If you go look on their web, you'll find a breakdown, and what you'll find most accurately is they'll give you percentages of which knowledge area contributes the most to your passing mark, okay? But it's never ever been published that 70% is passed, or 85% is passed, or 90% is passed. To my knowledge, when I was still studying, I was looking for that as well. Like I was trying to figure out how many can I have wrong and still pass. it could never find it, and no one knew at that point in time. Even the guys who were helping to write the exam questions and who were involved in it, like Rish and those guys from Watermark, no one in no site could you find what the actual passing mark is. I don't know if anyone else has seen anything similar lately, but as far as I know, it still isn't known. Okay, so I'm going to move on now to the next point, guys. I see they say it's correct. So I see other people have also looked for it. Yeah, it's not known. So it's one of those, guys. You should just try and aim for as high as you can. Unfortunately, we actually really don't know. Do you want to go on to the studying slide now? Oh, there we go. We off that. Sorry, day of exam. So getting to the day of the exam. For me, the morning of the exam, I booked quite early in the morning to go write. And what happened with me is I actually got stuck behind a massive accident. There was an accident and I was stuck in traffic. And I was getting so panicked on my way there. I was getting so stressed that I was actually going to miss this exam. Because if you miss it, you're going to have to pay to rewrite the exam. So by the time I got to the exam center, I was completely stressed out and completely rattled. So all the things I had in my mind and I planned never happened. So the first tip I can give you guys is, whenever you are writing, where you're writing, make sure you know, number one, where your center is. Because you can go select the center that's closest to you. You select that yourself. So number one, make sure you know where it is. Number two, if you know early mornings in that area is hectic with traffic, rather book a later slot in the day. Don't book it in the rush hour traffic time. That was a big mistake for me. Get there early. So you've got to get there early enough to be able to go identify yourself. So what I would suggest is, what I did is I took with me documentation with me to prove who I am. Guys, rather take the extra documentation with you than getting there on the day and not being able to write. If you don't have the documentation they require, they will not let you write. And if that happens, you will have to pay to rewrite the exam. Okay. So what I would say is you can take water with you guys. As soon as you are there, you can give them the documentation, you sign in, there's a locker, you lock away your stuff. This is an online exam. As you walk into the space, there'll be pen and paper next to your PC. What I did was I sat down and I did a brain dump. I quickly wrote down a couple of things that I know for me was the most important things. And a lot of them were like shortcuts and mnemonics to things, and that's what I did. Thereafter, you take a deep breath and you just start answering the questions. Don't second guess. If you're not sure about the question, mark it for review later. That's what I did. I answered what made sense to me. I tried to eliminate the most obviously wrong one and then looked for the one that was most correct. The ones I wasn't 100% sure, I marked for review later. When I got to the end of my questions, I went back to those. And what we'll do is, yes, there was enough time. Emma's just asked that. For me, there was enough time. I actually, after spending time to review as well, I had 20 minutes left at the end. What I would say is, guys, remember you can go to the bathroom and that as well. It doesn't freeze your time though. So if you are going to the bathroom, I don't think they stop your time from what I've heard. So just be careful of that. So if you are going to drink lots of water and do stuff like that, just know that you are going to cut down on your time. Okay. Nice thing is, when I was writing, what happened was, immediately after you've written, like literally, immediately just process it, you'll get your result. Mine didn't show on the screen. You had to go outside the room and it was printed out and you knew it was pass or fail. So that's how your day is going to go on that day. And that was my journey, guys. It was rewarding. It was difficult at times. How often are time slots available? Martin, depending on your center, they have a couple of times during the day. So normally these are prometric labs that do a lot of Microsoft exams and those kind of things as well. So depending on how busy the lab is, they might have 3 or 4 slots in a day. Maybe not every day. So some of them will have select days where they do this exam. But for most part, when I was seeing, there was like a morning, an afternoon, and a late afternoon slot. So you can book it yourself. Yeah, you can go to, good tip from Paul there. You can go to Pragmatics and have a look. And then, like I say, you book the venue that's closest to you and the time slot that works for you. Anything you're not allowed to take in, yes, you're not allowed to take in your phones. Don't take in paper things with you. You're not allowed to take in any. So you actually walk into the room, just yourself. As I said, at most you can take in a bottle of water. Okay. They won't allow any other devices, no notebooks, nothing else. Okay. If you do bring those kind of things with you, they have got a locker room. They'll allow you to lock everything away. Same thing when you go to the bathroom, they'll actually go to the bathroom with you, just to make sure that you're not getting notes anywhere or stack some notes somewhere. Okay. Guys, that's all from me. I do want to give Paul a chance to tell you guys about what happened with him with the audit process. Paul, are you ready?
I am. Okay, so I submitted my application for my CBAP on the 25th of September. And literally within 5 seconds, I got an audit email. So this is my gut feel. I think at the moment that it's an automatic process that they're doing. And it's not someone sitting and looking through the stuff and saying, hey, maybe we should audit it. So there's a couple of things that they asked for. The first thing is they asked me to submit copies of my education. So the education that I am claiming PDU points for. If you attend the BA Summit, you can claim, I think it's up to 6 points if you attended the workshop day. So you will have to actually contact the IIBA and get some sort of letter or confirmation of that for them. The second thing that they did is they contacted one of my references and one of my current managers. And this is why it's so important to do your homework first. And what I suggest is when you're doing before you even submit anything, get that watermark Excel spreadsheet. Because on that spreadsheet, you can start to put down all of your projects you work on, start to group the smaller projects into one project group. And because you're going to have some projects that are short projects and it's difficult to get your percentages right. So you just group all the small ones into one block of what I call various projects. So I'm thinking next month or in the next week or two, I might actually do a webinar on how to do that whole Excel spreadsheet before you submit your IIBA. So watch out, just look for that. Just on when you calculating your time, maximum of 80% you can allocate to a project, because they say that you can't be working for more than 80% time, because obviously the other stuff like coffee, lunch, the administration as well. So what did they ask? So my reference, they asked him if he himself had filled in the reference application form and that I had not done it on his behalf. And he had to confirm that. And my immediate manager, they sent through one or two of my projects and said, Paul has claimed the following in projects, and he has allocated X amount of time to this, and it's spread over the following large years. Can you confirm that this is accurate? So again, that comes back to don't do this application in isolation. Do it in that Excel spreadsheet before you even get onto IIBA to upload the stuff. And sit with your manager, sit with your people that you've reported to, or that senior BA that's going to vouch for you, and go through it with them line by line, so they know exactly what's in there, and that this stuff that doesn't come out the blue. So yeah, so I submitted all my stuff about 2 weeks ago, and I should have here by next week if I have passed the audit. We'll see. I'll let you know. I'm going to answer some of the questions along that I've got. Let's see here. So can I claim testing under one of the KPAs? No, as far as I know, there's no testing. Shadi,
So you cannot claim actual testing time as in you sitting and performing tests. When you're reviewing or providing input into a test pack okay, you can claim that. That's different, like scenarios and that. So that you can do, but actual time that you sat there and you tested and you did user acceptance tests, no, they don't count.
Okay, so just answering 2 more questions quickly, and then I'm just going to go back to the past questions that came through that we haven't answered yet. Was the audit for the application? Yes, it's for the application. What happens if you fail the audit? Well, I've never seen or heard of anyone fail. I suppose you are allowed to, and I'm looking at the email that I got from on my screen, I've got in front of me, you are allowed to contest it and ask for them to relook at it. Okay, let me just get to some of the questions. If you just give me a moment. I wanted to get to, let's have a look here. It's clear that you have 1 year after application approved to write the exam, but is there a time limit on how long I can build my application? No, I started building mine towards the end of last year, and I only submitted it now, it's almost a year later. So you just do bit by bit. There's quite a bit of other stuff besides your portfolio of evidence. So you've got to get your references in, you've got to get your education in, you've got to get quite a bit of other stuff. So start building on that so long. Okay, so does the individual who's completing the form need to have knowledge of all BA/BOC areas? Well, I think if you don't know what the BA/BOC areas are, how are you going to understand and allocate time to each of those BA/BOC areas, knowledge areas? So I think you need to have some sort of understanding. And in fact, I would actually say read the BA/BOC once before you start filling this form, because it'll give you understanding. And suddenly you'll say, actually, you know what? I've been doing that. I just didn't realize it was called that.
Yeah, so I agree with Paul on that one. He's 100% right. How can you know if you're allocating time to the right area and if it is if you don't understand the area? Paul, I just saw a question come up regarding application fee. Guys, there is an application fee that you need to pay, and that is $125. That is whether you are a member or not.
That's correct. Just going on the questions here, how do they ask you to show proof of hours? Well, that comes in audit. So they will ask your manager or someone to vouch for that. Remember, the IIBA is an honesty organization, and integrity is a big thing in organization. They don't take it lightly.
You also sign a Okay. So I'm just scrolling up looking at the question. There was a question here about CBAP giving you the competitive advantage in the industry and your peers. So it's interesting. We've watched it over the last couple of years, and it's interesting to see how you see more and more ads and recruitment ads now saying they want this degree or CBAP. You see this happening more and more. In companies where they're not asking specifically for CBAP, they'll say IIBA certification. So we are definitely seeing it more and more. So where we're looking for a specific degree, it'll equate it as the same level. They'll say either we want this on this degree or a CBAP for this position.
Yeah, I can also say that since I've started my CBAP preparation, certainly within my organization, I found that more and more of the other BAs and managers are approaching me and saying, asking for me to get involved in formulating policies and helping to help the junior BAs. So that's definitely coming through. Let's see other questions here that I have maybe missed. How do I fill in the number of hours per knowledge area on the CBAP application? If you get that Excel spreadsheet, you will see on the spreadsheet the way it is broken down. And that's the spreadsheet from the watermark that I'm referring to. So you'll put in 80%, you'll say, or you'll allocate the percentage of your day or your time that you've been on that project. You'll put in the start and end date, and it automatically calculates the hours, and then you'll portion it across the various knowledge areas. So that's why, again, I'm saying it's important that you understand what those knowledge areas before you even start filling in that application.
I see there's a question, Martin. I'm just scrolling up quickly where he was asking about, he said he's worked for a single company for a very long time and worked on a single web app, enhancing it over the years. Is that one project? So Martin, go look at it. I would go look at it and I'd try and break it down maybe. If it's very specific things that you guys did and you can't actually equate it to a project, maybe look at doing it like that. I wouldn't say make every small change a project, but maybe some of your bigger changes and some of the biggest directions you took with the project.
Okay, so there's a question here. Where can we get that spreadsheet? Guys, it's from Watermark. You go to Watermark Learning and you Google that. You'll find it. I'm just typing up the name there. Hopefully you can see it. Oh, sorry. There we go. Okay. So are there any other questions here that we have?
Yes, there's one from Stuart. So Stuart's asking, do you need to start at ECBA and work your way through? No, you don't have to, Stuart. If you have got enough hours at this point in time to go CCBA, you can go straight to CCBA. If you have enough hours and experience for CBAP, you can go straight to CBAP. But the one does not necessarily follow on top of the next one, okay?
And just to follow up, Stuart asked a question earlier and said, if you're unsure about your hours of experience and education, do you think you should rather apply for CCBA or CBAP? Stuart, fill in the Excel spreadsheet first. And if you've worked for 10 years as a BA, that will start to tell you that you're probably more CBAP. If you've worked for less than, if you worked for maybe 7 years, maybe you're more CCBA. But fill in that Excel spreadsheet because you'll soon get to the end and realize, okay, I'm probably more CBAP or CCBA. That will help guide you.
Yeah, guys, something I need to mention that is very hard for a lot of senior BAs. Sometimes, because you've been a BA for 10 years, it's very difficult for them is in their environment, the company they were in, they end up struggling because they might have 10 years of experience in 2 of the knowledge areas, and their company they never got exposure to any of the other knowledge areas. So we have had that happen previously, where people have spoken to us about that. And what we suggested, and that's you've got to get exposure to that kind of knowledge areas in your company. You've got to go ask for different type of projects. You've got to introduce things often, but it can happen. So I'm just putting that caveat out there.
Okay, there's a question here from iPhone. I don't know who you are. I'm attending with my team of BAs, but I was hoping to have some more discussion detail around the KPAs. Not sure what you're asking there. Maybe you can just clarify what you're asking. Okay. Okay, how long is your certification valid for? Can you hear me?
So it's valid for 3 years, guys. Sorry, I don't know if you could hear that. Your certification is valid for 3 years. Thereafter, you've got to recertify, and there's a bit of a grace period in that as well. They give you opportunity to recertify. That's why you've got to continuously. So, as Paul mentioned earlier, when you first apply, you worry about PDUs, your professional development. After you've been certified, you worry about something called seed lending events, doing further learning, working on further projects. It's attending IIBA events and stuff like that. So that's how you earn those kind of points.
Okay, guys, I'm going to have to close it there. We're running out of time. We're coming to the end. If you have any more questions, I sent an email out earlier today just to remind everyone of the webinar. Contact me on that email address or LinkedIn with me on LinkedIn and ask me the questions. If I don't know the answer, I'll get the answer for you. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shadi, for attending. And good luck to everyone who's thinking of doing their CBAP or the CCBA.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Paul. Can I just quickly answer that last question?
Yeah.
You don't rewrite after 3 years, okay? I think some people will cry if they had to hear that. You don't have to rewrite. You just recertify. And there's different criteria for that, okay? You don't have to rewrite every 3 years.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks. Shah, do you want to stay in line? Let's have a quick chat.
Luke online as well.
Okay. I'll phone you. I'll give you a call.
Okay, perfect.